saying so, and we're saying so because it matters. Y'all, I'm over the moon excited today. I am so excited. We have our first guest of the season, and I'm not only excited to have her, but to share her story with you and point you to all of her resources so you can watch her in this journey. So today I have Sandra Rule with me. She's a local friend from right here with me in Webster County, and she has bravely been sharing her journey with an eating disorder. She shares it on her social media, both Facebook and TikTok, and it encouraged me so much. I knew that we had to get her voice on here. We had to do it as soon as possible. But I wanted to have her on specifically for May because May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I thought, what better way to enter this month than to share her story of her journey, let's call it, with mental health and with this eating disorder. So, Sandra, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. So, Sandra, we see, excuse me, Sandra, those of you that are watching by YouTube will see, looks like a normal person. And myself, I'm ready to take your order here with my gaming and drive-through device or air traffic controller. But the microphone's terrible on my computer, and I didn't want to chance not picking up anything that you share today. So, uh, those of you watching by YouTube, just focus on Sandra. She's the one that is bringing the wisdom today. But, oh, good. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Oh my gosh, what courage it takes to share something so personal on social media. I'm grateful that you do that. What prompted you to start sharing on social media?
It was kind of like my little personal journey and like I say journey, but more like a journal and an outlet to my hope was that if I documented it, I could look back because I've always liked using social media. Maybe I could look back later on and see the progress I've made. But little did I know there was other people around me struggling, and it's helped others, and that has became my main goal is to be able to help others.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Well, I'll tell you, it encourages me. I always look forward to your posts. And if you don't follow Sandra, I'll go ahead and share it now in case I forget at the end. Give her a follow on Facebook and on TikTok. Are you anywhere else they can find you?
Mainly just those two right now, Facebook
Okay.
and TikTok.
And TikTok, is it Sandra Rule? Is that the name they would look up, or do you have a different handle?
Should be Sandra D. Rule.
Sandra D. Rule.
Yeah.
Now, on TikTok, too, she does journaling with Jesus and just does some cute little videos, so you won't be disappointed if you follow her. And fun fact about her, she loves the quarter store, and she finds the gems there. I'm always envious. I'm like, dang, go on, you hit the jackpot. That's awesome. Isn't that a cool little store to have in
It
our
is.
community?
That's where 90% of our clothing comes from.
I love it. And we get a lot of our granddaughter's clothing there, and some of it's brand new. I mean, it's
Yeah,
never been worn. I'm like, oh, this is great. Yeah, I love it. So
we hit the
shout out
jackpot some days.
for sure, for sure. I love it. Shout out quarter store. So let's just jump right in. Uh, Sandra and I have spoken before the interview to prep, and just I wanted to get to know her story a little more thoroughly, and I'm impressed by it so much. Just your strength and your perseverance. One thing that the listeners will hear throughout your story is you've had to advocate for yourself in getting the resources and being on waiting lists and trying different therapists. And you took the initiative to say, hey, I want to get healthy and get free from this disorder. So, anyways, let's throw it way back. It's not that far for you, but it is for me. I've got you a few years. But when we spoke, you said you first started making changes in your diet around 11 years old. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember like what prompted that?
I think it was just that skinny fad going on, the magazines and those on TV, everybody was thin. That was the thing. Like I always joke that it all started with the 100-calorie pack snacks because those were the things that everybody was pushing. And now you look and 100 calories is nothing. That's not enough to sustain you and really fuel your body.
Right. That's true. Very, very true. Now, I may have jumped the gun. I did share that the eating disorder is anorexia. Is there any other mental health diagnoses that you want to pair with that or talk about today?
I struggle with body dysmorphia, and it kind
Hmm.
of goes hand in hand with the anorexia.
Yeah.
Um, I struggle with bipolar depression and anxiety, OCD, and I had postpartum depression after I had my Gracie.
Yeah. Does OCD and anorexia, is it pretty common for them to
It
go
is,
together? Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
I learned yesterday that those who struggle with perfectionism, like myself,
Yeah.
are that's a kind of like a trend with eating disorders,
Hmm.
specifically anorexia.
Wow. Huh. Interesting. I mean, it's all so there's so many layers to it and
There
so
is.
many different factors, isn't there? I
Oh,
think
yeah.
sometimes when people hear, and you correct me now, anything I say, I'm heavily relying on you to be the expert here. So you correct anything I say. But I think sometimes when people hear eating disorder, they think it's just about food or just about being thin or heavy, but there's so much more to it than that.
People will say, well, why don't you just eat a cheeseburger?
Mhm.
But then they'll look at somebody heavier and say, well, if you didn't eat so many cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
A overweight person can have anorexia. It's not as simple as, like you said, it's just not that simple.
Right. Yeah. And something else I learned when we were speaking also is it's not just a female disorder.
No.
Can you tell me
I'll,
a little? Yeah, tell
I'll
me a little more
share with
about that.
you, it does not, eating disorders do not discriminate. Um, Females are more likely to have an eating disorder, but males can have eating disorders also, anorexia, um, binge eating, all sorts of food related issues.
Yeah, yeah. It does not discriminate. That's for sure. So when things first started, when you were 11 years old, that's those preteen years. The pressure is intense, though. It's just to look the look. Um, at that age, just I'm thinking about myself and my children. The last thing most children want to be is different.
Yeah,
So if you're too heavy or your hair is different or some girls develop earlier, at that age, the last thing they want to be is different than the crowd per se. And did that pressure play in to your choices?
oh yeah, definitely. That's like you said, you want to fit in, you don't want to be any different. You want to be, and I wanted to fit in, I wanted to be like those, the image that we were given, the models and the, not specifically a model, but to be thin.
Hmm. Yeah. So when you were 11, did you walk me through that? What did that look like? Did it look like just not finishing your plate initially, or were you totally aware of the choice, like, I want to make some changes in my body? Or was it something just gradually over time you found yourself doing?
I think it was a change in my mind of if I eat less, I'll be thinner.
Hmm.
And I was never, I've always been thin. Even when I was pregnant, I was really thin. So I was not eating lunch at school. I wasn't eating breakfast at school. So I was really just eating when I would come home from school. And even teachers started noticing that I was coming to school with like a can of Pepsi and I don't think my mom even realized that I was going to the cold lunch table, drinking a Pepsi and not eating any food all day long.
Hmm.
So a teacher started, saying you have to take a granola bar or a yogurt, something to eat. And looking back, I'm like, man, that's a long time. Getting up, getting on a bus,
Hmm.
being at school all day. You, we function better when our bodies are fueled. And we need that food to be able to work, to be able to survive.
Mm-hmm.
I was really just starving myself of a basic need.
Mm-hmm. Now, at any time, did the teachers or any other professionals mention anything to your parents along this way? I want to interject real quick though. This is this is a few years back, though I did joke and say I am older than Sandra. I'm 48, but it was still, even when you were younger, it maybe wasn't as talked about as much as it is now.
20 years ago, so
Yes.
no,
Right.
not
Right.
anywhere. Um, you didn't mention mental illness, let alone eating disorders, really. So, not that I remember a teacher, I remember a couple specifically pulling me to the side.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they ever did my parents. And earlier, I was like making little notes for this today. And of course, I know my mom and those that helped raise me, my grandparents, my mom and dad, they did the best they could.
Mm-hmm.
And, I always will say, I thought I had the best childhood.
Mm-hmm.
They do the best they could. I was the first child of theirs, and that was their first time being a parent. So we got to
That's
give
right.
each other grace.
Yes. Yeah.
But even
I.
my mom looks back and she's even asked me before, is the reason you want to be thin because of me? My mom's in a larger body and she struggles sometimes with binge eating and wanting to lose weight, and she struggled with her weight on the opposite end all of her life.
Mm-hmm.
And my answer is no. I've never ever looked at her or anybody else in a larger body and hated them for it or been disgusted by them.
Mm-hmm.
I could never say the things to other people that I say to myself.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's true.
That's hard.
I'm glad you said that. That is so true. We are so hard on ourselves, and yet give so many other people grace and compassion and gentleness. And probably, if you heard someone else speaking to themselves the way that you at one time spoke to yourself, you'd say, "Stop that!" I mean, like you would stop them immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, so true, so true. And you're right about parents. I tell my kids, they're adults now, and sure, I look back and there's a lot I wish I would have done differently. I didn't know. And at the time, you do the best you can with what you have, with
Yeah.
what knowledge you have, with what resources you have. You do the very best. And as you grow both in maturity and the child grows, and then you have more kids, like you learn as you go. And so our oldest, I love him, but always like, I'm sorry, man, you were our trial and error. Like we didn't know what to do. Like we just didn't know. But
Yeah.
he's turned out well. I can't complain, but you really do the best you can. But as a mother, and knowing your mom, she's so kind and just so sweet, always has been. I'm sure you would take that weight on. Like
Oh yeah.
what did I do or didn't do? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for
And
sure.
now me being a mom, it helps me to understand too, because when my Gracie is saying something negative,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to, reframe that mindset and help her redirect her thoughts and fix
Yeah,
it and remind her, you're fearfully and wonderfully made. That's one of my
that's right.
favorite Bible verses.
That's right.
And I try to, incorporate the self love and all the things that I've been lacking all this time
Yeah,
in her, and hopes that she doesn't struggle like I have.
yeah, yeah. So let's talk about like let's move on up to maybe your teenage years. Is it safe to say that it just continued and maybe even gotten worse throughout
Yeah.
those years? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Even thinking back and thinking, why was I feeling so poorly during my high school years? Well, I wasn't eating all day long.
Yeah,
And then I was going to work and working from 4 o'clock to 8, 9 o'clock at night.
yeah.
It's a long day with not giving my body any fuel to run off of.
Right. So true. Now, did any friends, especially during your high school years, did they notice or did they know what to say or not say um, concerning your eating habits? Or
No, but looking back, there was a few others that you know, were kind of doing the same thing.
now, I also want to touch on. I'm focusing a lot on eating habits, but we talked about you had an unhealthy relationship too with exercise. Is that
Oh
correct?
yeah.
Yeah. Would you talk a little bit about that, please?
Exercise was my way of, well, if I eat, I can work it off or make up for what I ate. So even on days that I wasn't feeling well, I was pushing my body to work out. And I actually ended up fracturing a hip just walking from where my bones were so weak. I was malnourished, lacking calcium. So even up about 3 months into the hip fracture, that I didn't realize that's what it was at the time. It was brutal. I realized, hey, I have a really toxic relationship. I'm trying to push myself through, even whenever I'm in extreme pain, to push myself through a workout. So when I was no longer able to work out and realized that I, there was no way to work that food off, that was a little bit of a struggle in my mind.
Yeah. Did you view exercise more as punishment instead of like get to or ability to or
Yeah, it was more of a punishment for what I ate or a way to earn food rather than
Mhm.
the freedom of being able to move my body.
Yeah. 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 I just know there are so many. I'm going to say women, but as we've already discussed, women and men that can relate to every word that you're
Yeah.
saying for sure. For sure. So tell me, so you graduate high school, still plugging along. When did you decide to like, hey, I need some help or something's off, something's wrong here?
2021,
Hmm.
I was in therapy and I started seeing a therapist in 2020. 2021 comes along and I was just starting to talk about some, sitting and thinking. And I was like, I really have a problem. And I came to this realization. So I brought it up to my therapist, and she's like, "Yeah, you definitely have anorexia. You have some body dysmorphia going on." She had already diagnosed me, of course, with anxiety and OCD, bipolar depression. So we started working on that. She started trying to get me into different programs in the state and even out of state. No response back from anywhere. What we did find that we could do online, you get into a few week program, but you pay a couple thousand up front. I feel like a lot of people, a lot of these programs that aren't through hospitals and such, just like private, personally owned,
Hmm.
um, are profiting off of somebody else's sickness rather than wanting them well and healthy.
Yeah.
Um, so at one point, I felt like I was just going to give up on that.
Yeah.
That was, I seen a psychiatrist about a year ago, and when I seen her, um, I had to see her to be able to get my mental health medications refilled. Because my counselor could not do that. So I went to her and she asked if I was possibly interested in seeing a somebody for the eating disorder, getting into a nutritionist, dietitian, somebody. Um, that was early last, late winter, early spring, maybe. She put in referrals across the state again. And like I told her, it's okay. You're not going to get me in anywhere. We've done this for 3 years.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. It's okay.
Hmm.
It'll be okay. And a couple places sent me a couple pamphlets. I said, like the WIC office would give you,
Yeah.
that we learned the basic food pyramid in grade school.
Yeah.
So I really just gave up on that. And when I seen my psychiatrist 3 months ago, she was like, I'm going to put a referral in again. I knew she was wasting her time. That was fine with me. I got a call back like a week later that at CAMC in Charleston, they were they have an eating disorder program and that they got me in.
Right.
So I've been seeing them. Yesterday made my third appointment, and I will meet with a dietitian in 2 weeks. So it's taken 4 years
4 years. Yeah.
And like you said, advocating for myself just to be able to get in, and sometimes losing a little hope that there's just not a lot of resources in our state.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Like, hats off to you because honestly, I probably would have just gotten frustrated with it and been like, well, I'm going to live with this as long as I live, you know, because
Yeah.
you even sought out the initial counselor. Am I correct about that? Your initial therapist, you
Yes.
decided, hey, I want to get some help. So you sought that out. And again, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you start with one? She wasn't a fit. So you switched to someone else?
I started with one and I really liked her. Somehow we got disconnected. It
Mm-hmm.
was during COVID. We kind of got disconnected. And I was like, I'm just going to give up.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, no, I'm making progress here.
Yeah.
So I got connected back with a different person. I'm seeing this lady. I was explaining to her that I have anorexia. You and I had talked about when I was at my lowest, I was abusing laxatives to the point that I was using them every 2 days at least. I not only restricted food but water also. A sip of water was all I allowed myself. One time a day eating. Obsessively weighing myself 7 to 8 times a day was nothing for me to weigh myself. I had reached the point where the laxatives were gone. I hadn't stepped on the scales for a long time, so this was a huge victory for me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm expressing this to her, she stops me and tells me we were doing telehealth. She tells me to go and weigh myself and come back and tell her what I weigh. So it was a huge setback.
Mm-hmm.
After that visit, I decided I wasn't going to see her anymore.
Yeah.
And my previous therapist had told me it's okay to fire and it's okay to hire if I'm just not a good fit. So I guess I fired her that day. And I ended up reconnecting with my therapist that I was initially with. And I did get to see her for quite some time. And I actually just sent her a message last night telling her about doing the podcast, the YouTube video with you, and that I had exciting news getting into the eating disorder clinic and just getting to share
Yeah.
with her because not only was she my counselor, I felt like I made a friend and she centered herself with, she was Christ centered and I love that about her.
Yeah.
God definitely put her in my path.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm sure that will make her day to see that
Yeah.
information also. Now, outside of therapy and counseling and such, did you pursue any resources yourself? Like, did you read books or look up things online or join any? I know Facebook has lots of different groups. Did you find any support or information through any of those avenues?
I did. TikTok was one of the biggest for me. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of creators on there that are struggle the same ways I do, and I relate. I've learned a lot from them. Um, I started following some on Instagram. I really don't use it as much, and Facebook. I joined a few groups on there, and there was a lady that I became friends with, and she, I introduced myself. It was a closed private group, and she and I ended up talking, and we're talking back and forth, and she's struggling with the same things that I was, and she'd abused laxatives, and she was to the point that she had to be put on kidney dialysis from the laxative
Wow.
abuse. And she was begging me, please don't do this. Please don't get yourself in the shape that I'm in. Um, about a year ago, she passed away from anorexia.
I bet
I
that
actually
hits
wrote,
home.
yes, I wrote down a statistic this morning, and it was just a couple of days ago was her birthday, and it came up as like, it was just like a punch in the gut, like that claimed her life. And without the resources, it could easily have been mine just the same.
Yeah.
In 4 years' time, how many people around the state of West Virginia are struggling that just can't get in somewhere?
Yeah. Yeah, we praise God that your life has been sustained, but our heart does hurt for her family and friends that love her,
Yes.
for sure. Yeah, wow. Now, when did you when along the way did you decide to add like laxatives? Did you gag yourself to throw up? Did you do anything, anything you want to share about your journey um, to make your body smaller? Um, can you do that for us?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing I ever used was laxatives,
Okay.
never vomiting, anything like that. But I've always had some gut issues, and that came trying laxatives one time, and I was like, oh, being full,
Yeah.
I associate bloat and the fullness with being fat. And now I have come to learn there is nothing wrong with being fat. There are so many worse things in the world you can be than fat.
Yeah. This is true.
You can be unkind, and that's way uglier than anything.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so that became a daily habit. My therapist and I had talked about that and how, some of us have more addictive behaviors than others. And, that's something I struggled with
Mm-hmm.
was every couple of days I was taking the laxatives, and I was so miserable, so weak that I couldn't stand even to take a shower. I would end up sitting in the tub of the shower just to be able to shower. Couldn't stand without being dizzy. My heart constantly raced. I was always felt sick.
Yeah. Yeah. But I wonder if to the outside world, did you put a smile on and bounce out the door when you needed to
Oh yeah.
and go on? Yeah. Isn't
And
that true? Yeah.
one of my closest friends, Ashley, she just said to me, she's like, I should have noticed. Like, she's like, I mean, she's my best friend. She's like, I should have noticed more. And like I told her, when I was with people, it was easy for me to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Not as much as others did, but it was easier for me to eat.
Mm-hmm.
What they didn't realize is I hadn't ate all day because I was waiting until then for that to be my meal. It didn't matter if it was 6 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
I was waiting, and like she said, usually wherever we went, it was food related. We were going to go out to eat, and I consider myself a foodie. My eating disorder therapist and I've talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
We she's like, that's common
Yeah.
for those who have eating disorders. They think about food all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you probably, as a friend, I can understand where Ashley's coming from. You think, gosh, I hate that I missed that. But I would imagine you probably become a professional at learning how to mask it, how to juggle it, how to keep it private, dodge the questions. I
Yeah.
mean, is that accurate? You think you knew how to
Oh
kind of
yeah.
play the game per se? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
And my ex-husband and I mean, we lived together. He didn't even realize that I was married at the time, and he didn't realize that I was abusing laxatives. He
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize that I was taking them that often.
Yeah.
And I used to be one of these people that would be like, well, how did that person not know that? And then I realized, sometimes we hide things from
Yeah.
those that are closest to us, and they don't even realize what's going on or how sick we really are or
Mm-hmm.
how they can help you.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. So true. Well, I'm so thankful that you took the initiative yourself to reach out and connect with a therapist and get the ball rolling to get healthy. Let's talk about, so now we want to get pregnant. We want to become a mama. So let's talk about that journey. Did you have any infertility issues? Did the anorexia, impact your cycle any? And then once you got pregnant, our bodies change when we get
Yeah.
pregnant. So what was that like for you?
I knew I had infertility issues. I was told I would never get pregnant. I was told that, if I got pregnant, I would never be able to carry. I had my first cystectomy at 14. I had a lot of endometriosis, and I had, menstrual cycles were missed.
Mm-hmm.
Just a lot of issues. I got pregnant with Gracie when I was 20. After I got married at 19. I got pregnant at 20, but I tried to get pregnant. I was like, I was told I wouldn't. It's okay. it's okay if we don't. We just come to accept the fact that we probably would never have a baby. I found out I was pregnant, which was a complete shock. I was like, was it planned? I can say yes and no. Like, we'd given up.
Yeah.
So I got pregnant with Gracie, and I was over the moon excited. Never once during my whole pregnancy did I ever hate any change in my body, which was crazy to me. I knew that I had to take care of myself. I knew that I had to fuel my body for her to be fed, her to grow. And in my words, I said, I have a tiny human depending on me. And my previous counselor said, wait a minute. You had a tiny human depending on you. Is she still not depending on you? And that was an eye-opener, because here she is. She's not in the womb anymore, but now she's 10 years old and still, I'm her mama. She's always going to depend on me at some point.
Yes.
So I really didn't struggle with any issues while I was pregnant. I was content. I was happy. I felt beautiful. Even postpartum, I didn't hate my body, and it was the first time in my life until Gracie was about 16 months old. And I had postpartum depression, but it was manageable, I guess, until about that point. At that point, it was no longer manageable. I had to seek help, and I was ashamed. I was embarrassed. At this time, 9 years ago, you would have never got me to agree to something like this. I would have never. I was ashamed to go and seek treatment, to put my feelings out there to a complete stranger, let alone I'd have never voiced it for the internet to hear.
Right.
And then when I was prescribed an antidepressant, I was like, I'm not taking those. Well, I started taking an antidepressant, and it helped me tremendously. The thing about antidepressants is, it's not a one-size-fits-all. Prozac was great for me at first, and then it kind of stopped working, and I felt numb. I always say I had feelings for my mom and Gracie. Nothing else mattered. I didn't care about my body. I didn't care about anything. And I actually gained some weight at that point. I felt careless, though, and I wasn't having any emotions, any feelings. I couldn't cry about anything. So I stopped taking the Prozac, and then I was like, oh, I've got to lose some weight. And again, I was never overweight. But I was back in that mindset. I've got to lose some weight. I started working out, watching what I was eating, and it became obsessive. That's when it got, I want to say around 2018, that's when it started, me becoming healthy. 2017, 2018, becoming healthy became obsessive, and it turned unhealthy.
Yeah. Does anorexia, is it I don't know if this is the right phrase. I'm always afraid to offend. I don't want to cause any offense to anyone.
Oh, no, you can't.
Thank you. Excuse this cough also, but does it have a lot to do with control?
Yes.
Okay. And do you feel like at that time, specifically when you said it was at an all-time high, you were very obsessed with it, did you feel like things were just out of control?
Yes. And my life in the past few years, I felt like, especially in the past 5, I felt like things were not in my control, and I needed to have control. Like, I felt like I was being controlled, and the one thing I could control was my eating, what I ate, what I didn't eat. It was my body that I could control. But during that time, I did a lot of damage to my body. The hip ended up getting broke. At 29, I had a total hysterectomy. So, we were just talking about the infertility and all those issues. I was able to get pregnant one other time after Gracie, and I miscarried. Um, I struggled with the issues with the endometriosis, the cysts, all those issues, and I had to have a total hysterectomy and another cystectomy just a few months back.
Wow. Yeah, your body has definitely been through it. I mean,
Yeah,
bless your heart. Yeah. Tell me what it's like parenting a daughter now during this journey. Do you worry about her struggling with the same issues or picking up any of the habits? How do you juggle that?
I worry about her, how she looks at her body. She never looks at anybody else's body and makes negative comments about them, but she does herself. So I've been trying to redirect that, let her know, like I said, she's fearfully and wonderfully made, just like you and I are,
Absolutely.
and that we can't be downing ourselves. God doesn't make junk, He doesn't make mistakes. She has watched me really just pick myself apart or say things to myself that I shouldn't. And she would watch me body check, look at myself in the mirror and, pinching my legs or my arms or, just feeling and she would get so upset with me. And it has helped me for her to be like, don't do that, Mom, stop.
Mm-hmm.
To do it less. That's something I'm working on, to stop doing that constantly.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for Gracie. And
Yeah,
indeed, she is a beautiful young lady for sure.
thank you.
Um, so we've kind of worked through what the initial onset of the eating disorder looked like, your journey up till now. Can you tell me, like, presently, what does your journey look like? What you're doing? What resources you're doing? Um, what what's going on in your mind, and where you hope to go in this journey?
So I've been seeing the eating disorder center
Mm-hmm.
since 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Up until that point, I was really proud of myself because there was a few times that I challenged myself to look at the scales at the doctor's office. The psychiatrist office has me to turn around and not look, and that's the greatest thing ever for me. Because I did find myself, even whenever I was like, that number doesn't define me,
Yeah.
um, I get stuck on numbers,
Sure.
and I don't calorie count any of those things. So I was, even though, if the number was lower than what I expected, I was like, oh, I could treat myself extra today.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of still stuck in that mindset of earning food
Mm-hmm.
when we should never be that way.
Right.
So when I went to the eating disorder clinic, they have me to turn around and weigh me and all that, so I never know. Um, like I said, no calorie counting, no scales, no laxatives, nothing like that. But I went from eating one time a day to, and I'm talking like a cinnamon roll and a cup of coffee, black coffee.
Mm-hmm.
That was that day.
Yeah.
Um, Not a meal. It was rarely an actual meal. And if I did eat a meal, it was a teaspoon or tablespoon of the serving, each serving. It was never much.
Wow. Yeah.
So I was so proud of myself. I had made it up to where I was eating breakfast. Like, that was my most important meal of the day. I'd eat a late lunch, early dinner, bedtime snack, and I go to my first visit, and she has me, just kind of doing I was there about 2 hours doing a like initial intake, get to know me, and that all that good stuff. And 2 weeks go by. We didn't have an appointment. I went last week, and she starts me doing. She asked me how I felt about logging every meal, and my first thought was, okay, kind of like my fitness pal, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And like, okay, trauma response. No, we're not. I can't. But I let her finish talking, and she's like, you'll log every meal. I'll be able to see it. She introduces me to this app, and I'm a foodie. I like to take the pictures of the food and upload it
Mm-hmm.
to Facebook, or I do like to bake and, share my meals and stuff. So I could upload a picture of my meal to the app, and she would be able to see it. I can put in there who I ate with, where at, how long we ate, was I distracted, mindful, was I aware, how I'm feeling. It has like a little place to put your thoughts. Have you body checked since your last meal? And we kind of set up a routine for my meals, but rather than eating 3 times a day, it went to 6, and I was like, this isn't doable.
Yeah.
But breakfast, a morning snack, lunch, an afternoon snack, dinner, and a bedtime snack. And the snacks have, breakfast, I needed to add a protein to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the snacks, if you eat grapes, eat some cheese with it, or put some crackers with something.
Mm-hmm.
So, although it's been challenging, it's also been kind of fun. I went shopping last week and I was like, this is the most fruits and veggies my body has probably ate in years.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still eating some junk, and
Sure.
I'm a Starbucks coffee lover.
Yeah.
I'm going to treat myself.
Yeah.
But it's been challenging, and I've done decently well. I went back yesterday. I will see her on Mondays, and then we will do a telehealth appointment on Thursdays. But I'll drive to Charleston every Monday to see her in person, get weighed, and go from there. Yesterday, making the 3-week mark, she asked, this is usually where people are like, okay, I'm all in, or no, I'm out. So she asked what I was thinking, and I'm like, look, I've made it this far.
Yeah, you have.
Like she said, it's taken me this long.
Mm-hmm.
And many people have asked, but she asked, why are you seeking treatment now? You've made progress. Why are you seeking treatment now if you've made this progress in the last few years? And then I explain, I've been seeking treatment all these years. I'm just finally getting my foot in the door somewhere, and I'm here to stay.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find, I don't know if you're there yet or not. It might be too soon to ask this question, but like when you were shopping and you're incorporating now the eating 6 times a day, the meals and the snacks, do you have like a sense of freedom in any way? Like, I can enjoy this snack and not like worry about fitting into my jeans or anything of that nature yet?
Yes, and the accountability part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
I was just thrilled because whatever I upload in that app, she can see it.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's no calorie counting in it, there's no numbers, it's just what I've ate, how I'm feeling. And then she gets to see all that, and we get to discuss it. And I've set a goal to try new foods each week, at least one new food. And like last week, I did hot honey hummus.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, it's delicious. Like,
yeah.
Why have I not allowed myself to even try healthy foods
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Good for you. I'm super proud of you. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Good for you. Like, that's awesome. That's awesome. So before I get to like some of the last few kind of wrap up questions, any notes that you've taken while preparing, just anything that comes to your mind that you want to share, anything at all, I want to give you the floor to do so.
I think I touched on, you do not have to be skinny to have anorexia. Less than 6% are medically underweight. And every 52 minutes, someone dies from anorexia. It is the second highest mortality rate of any mental illness behind opioid addiction. One of my counselors in the past, she and I had discussed, this has taught me to be more compassionate also. You never know what somebody's dealing with. I'm always preaching be kind, but you never know what somebody's dealing with. And drug addiction, or really any addictions, kind of fall hand in hand, just like anorexia does. People think it's just, okay, well, you're making a choice. You are making a choice, but you have to make the choice. Like, you have to want to recover, you have to want to get help. But I had a counselor tell me, you're met with every day, are you going to eat or are you not? Your life depends on eating.
Yeah, it's a
That's where
necessity.
you're, yeah,
Yeah, you have to have it. Yes.
there's no way of getting around it, and you have to make that choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just discussing it one day, and she was like, do you realize eating disorders are a mental illness? And I was like, why did I not put that together?
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
people don't realize that.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And it's certainly not an overnight recovery process. If anything we've heard from you, this is years in the making. It takes a while to
Yeah.
untangle those beliefs and those thoughts and those habits and get to the root of what's going on. So kudos to you for doing the work. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Because it's not easy work, not easy physically or mentally, for sure.
No.
Yeah. That's awesome. So tell me, you and I both have interjected little snippets that we of our faith. So tell me what your relationship with God looks like. Like, how does He play into your recovery?
I know that He will never leave me nor forsake me, and He will always see me through. Struggling with the body dysmorphia, I've brought it up more than once. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. I keep referring back to that, and I'm made in His image.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we look and we think of things like, I asked Gracie one time, what is your favorite animal? And she's telling me all the details about her favorite animal. And I said, do you realize that God made that? The same God that made that made you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how we can look in the mirror and hate ourselves and pick ourselves apart. I always go back to, well, wonder how that makes God feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
how can we talk to ourselves and be so mean to ourselves?
Yeah.
That can't glorify God.
Yeah. That's right. We honor the Creator as we steward His creation, and that
Yes.
includes us as well. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. And getting back in church, I attend church at Bergie Baptist.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have I know you do, but anybody who's listening, and anytime that you would be able to come, we have Sunday service, morning and evening, and Wednesday evening we're putting together a vacation Bible school.
Yeah.
Anyone's welcome, come as you are. Having a good church family and surrounded by all those people have tremendously changed my life in the last few months.
That's great. I was going to ask that, and yes, that's great. That's awesome.
When I was growing up, mental health, especially, around other churchgoers, I was raised in church.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the ones I went to church with really frowned on
Yes.
opening up about mental health. And I can say our pastor, Benny, he is not one of those people. They are very come as you are, and we get in our own heads, and he will tell you the same.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. That is so true.
Yeah.
Yeah. And during your recovery, how important is community and a support system?
Very important.
Yeah.
And there have been people that I never imagined coming to me and asking, my 15, 16-year-old daughter, do you think you could talk to her? Or, how can I help my child?
Mm-hmm.
Or, who's a good therapist? Who can... There's been people, I've often say this too, some of your biggest supporters aren't always your close friends or your family. Now, I have some really great friends that really do support me and are incredibly proud, and I'm thankful that they're always rooting me on, and some family members, but sometimes those people that you expect to support you and be happy for you, they're not.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And a few members in my church that I didn't even realize was before I even started going to church are like, I've been praying for you all along.
Oh.
I'm so proud of you. It's so brave that you share that.
Mm-hmm.
And at times I've been like, maybe I'm oversharing, but maybe not. If I help just one person, then it's worth putting it all out there.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
And you and I talked about this too. There's such shame with with mental illnesses, with getting any help with mental health issues, with eating disorders, and sometimes just hearing someone else say, "Hey, I've been there, done that," or currently struggling as well. That kind of removes a layer of that shame, like hearing you're not alone. So I encourage you. I love that you share. I definitely know that it's doing more good than harm.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Incredible. Anything else that you want to share? Any resources, thoughts, uh, anything? I mean, really, I want to give you the opportunity to do so.
I look back on pictures, and
Mm,
I know you've seen a couple of them that I've shared on TikTok, and I look back on pictures and I'm like, how do people not realize? And I'll never forget one day. It was in 2021, right after I had told my counselor at the time, "Hey, listen, I have a problem." And
mhm.
she was like, "Yeah, I've just kind of been waiting for you to bring it up. You definitely have a problem." She knew me better than I knew me. But she gave me, my time to. I always say you have to want help to get help.
Yeah.
Um, I can't force anybody to change, and neither can you. You can't force someone to want help. You can give them all the resources, but if they don't want that, it
Hmm.
is what it is.
Yeah.
But my mom said to me, don't get mad at your brother. Um, he's noticed something. Don't get mad. And I'm like, I'm not going to get mad. What's it? What do you mean? And she's like, he noticed you have some issues going on with eating. He thinks you're anorexic. And I was like, yeah, I'm in therapy for that right now. And
Oh,
so I've been, like I say, loud and proud about
yeah.
recovering loudly, choosing to recover
Hmm.
loudly, because if you sit in silence, others are going to suffer in silence just the same.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I think it's great. And it is such a tender, sensitive subject. You do wonder how to approach someone gently and not cause more harm, but yet you can see these changes and and such. So I think it's great that you sought out your recovery. You sought
Yeah.
out, hey, help me. Like,
Yeah.
I need some help. That's awesome. That's awesome.
And
I
I
love
have
that.
faith that God will, you know, I'm always saying, we go through it for a reason,
Hmm.
and maybe my reason is to be able to help others.
Yeah.
But I have faith that God is using me, and that with Him,
Oh
I'll be
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. He doesn't do anything halfway. I
No.
mean, he doesn't. He didn't halfway raise from the grave. He didn't. Doesn't do anything halfway, and he's not going to do anything halfway in you, for
Yeah.
sure. So, I'm I'm thankful, and I believe just like you said, what the enemy meant for harm, which was this eating disorder, to take you out, steal, kill, and destroy your joy, your health, anything he can from you. God said, "Oh, hold on there. Let's use this for good." And indeed you are. I mean, by sharing your story, the encouragement you are to other people, it's probably opened up many doors we'll never know about,
Yeah.
people getting help or talking to their family or bringing light to it. So for sure, I love it. I think it's super awesome that you do it. The last two questions I have before we wrap it up here. What do you know about God now that you didn't know about him before this journey? And what do you know about yourself now that you didn't know before this journey started?
Okay, about God. Well, one, I really thought I would be fine. I had this in my head that I don't need to go to church.
Mm-hmm.
And I could be a Christian, I could read my Bible, I could pray. I did not need to be in church.
Mm-hmm.
And this April would have made 11 years since I had been in church.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't say that proudly.
Right.
I was raised in church, and I've raised Gracie. I homeschool her, and I also start our lesson every day with we prayed and we read our Bible, done a lesson, usually craft, whatever. But I've always centered it around a Bible study first.
Mm-hmm.
And she kept asking to go to church. And my best friend Ashley kept inviting me to church. And I was like, yeah, we'll come. Then I'd make an excuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll come. And I was kind of led to go to, there was 2 different churches that I considered going to, and one of them were Burgoo Baptist. And Ashley asked and asked, and then she won't care that I mentioned her. Donna Morello asked me if
Donna, she's a hoot.
she is, and she had asked me, and she's like, I'll come and pick you up, and I was like, no, you don't have to pick us up, but we'll be there. Mm-hmm. And I had already filed for a divorce. I had plans to move away at that time, and I took Gracie and went to Burgoo Baptist, and someone actually said, going to Burgoo Baptist is just like walking into Grandma's house.
Aww.
It's, it's so warm and welcoming, and I was like, after she said that, like, this was down the road, but I can't describe it any other way. Like, yeah. I knew that was exactly where I belonged. Going to that church was where I needed to be. Mm-hmm. And it's like God opened my eyes and was like, you do need church. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Not a single one of us inside that church is perfect.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. But God is. Yeah. And He wants us to do our work. And like I said, I feel like He's using me. And I pray absolutely every day that He can use me. Yeah. My faith has grown tremendously. Yeah. Since then. And I definitely feel loved and cared for at the Burgoo Baptist. And I hope and pray everybody there that walks in those doors feels the same way.
That's awesome. That really is. That really is. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. And then myself, I really think that I've realized I'm capable of more than I realized. I'm a little stronger than I realized. Yeah. I never realized even the physical pain that I would be able to tolerate what I did. Yeah. My hip was broke, and like I said, I walked on my hip for 3 months before they realized that's what was going on. Mm-hmm. I was having to advocate for myself at that time too, because insurance just fought me the whole way. Yeah. And I thought I was a weak person, but apparently I'm not as weak as I thought.
No, you are not. No, I think it takes great strength to admit, hey, I need some help. And the way you persevered to get it, I mean, you were determined to get help. That speaks great strength to me. Yeah. I'm sure to the listeners, for sure. Well, thank you so much. Like, I've said it, I know, a few times. I was just so excited to have you, and I'm so thrilled with the conversation. I really am. I appreciate you sharing. You, anytime you want to hop on, all you have to do is send me a text, a message. You always have an open invite to join in.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, as your journey progresses, if you want to come back and tell us, here I am, 3 months, 6 months later, always you are welcome here. Again, if you don't follow her, go do so on Facebook and on TikTok. You'll learn, you'll laugh, you'll enjoy her posts. They're good. As she said, she attends Burgoo Baptist. I attend Emmanuel Assembly of God. It's funny, the pastors of the 2 churches that we go to are brothers. her pastor's Benny, mine's Pastor Marty, and indeed both are great communities to be in. But I would echo what you say. To grow in your walk with Christ, church attendance is it's a factor that needs to be taken seriously. Yeah, for sure. I agree. All right. Well, thank you so much. Just thank you 100 times over for being here.
Well, thank
I appreciate
you.
it. My goodness, thank you so much. And for those listening on the podcast, watching on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe to both. Be sure to hit your little reminder bell so you know when a new episode goes up. Talk to us in the comments. Sandra, I'll show her how to get on there. You can talk to her. You can also reach out to her on social media as well. Just remember, neither one of us are mental health practitioners. So she has walked through this journey and would be glad to share that with you. Probably, I would say, a wealth of knowledge from her and resources also. But just don't be ashamed. In Mental Health Awareness Month, I want to make sure that I'm part of making it aware that it's okay to get help. It's okay to need help. It does not mean you are weak. It's actually the opposite. The strongest people reach out for help. So I'm going to try this month too to wear this little shirt. It's called Stay Another Day. I got it from the TikTok shop because we all know that I probably need an intervention for TikTok. Okay, so but I think this is a super important message. As she shared with you, the statistics are crazy high of people who they don't make it another day because of this mental health issue that she shared, an eating disorder. But also, if you feel like the world would be better off without you, that is a lie. That is not the truth. Um, if you need a voice to tell you, I will tell you, and I'm sure she will tell you as well. The world needs you in it, and there are people and places that can help you. So reach out, please. All right, that's it. Thank you very much. We'll do it again another time, but do come back and join us and let us know how your journey's going.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.